Kia ora tātou, me mihi ka tika kia tātou I tēnei wā. Happy Māori New Year. Ngā mihi o te wā makariri. Ngā mihi o te wā makariri. Makariri means cold. Matariki is our Māori New Year. So ngā mihi o te wā makariri me te wā matariki. Me mihi ka tika kia tātou katoa. Thank you all those who have joined us today. We have had about 62 registered. Really proud to be here today to share our wonderful story and strategy and action plan around Kai. We acknowledge the timing around matariki and all the values associated with matariki in terms of crop food, our values and our strategy to work together collectively. But just as an opening, can I just ask those to stay and remain on mute until you have a pātai, and hopefully your pātai can come through the chat function. I'm going to open our meeting with a prayer now. Again, I welcome you all under the auspices of our Heavenly Father. Let us do opening prayer. Nō reira me inoi tātou. E tō mātou mātuitarangi, kia tapu tō ingoa kia tai mai tō rangatiratanga, kia me te tai pai a kirin ki te whenua, kia rita nō ki tō te rangi. O mai kia mātou aia nei he tara mō mātou mō tēnei rā. Murua o mātou hara me mātou e hoki e muri nei I o te hunga I harana kia mātou. Aua hoki, kaua e ke whakawaia I ngari whakawarangi mātou e te kino. Nau hoki te rangatiratanga, te kā me te kōria. Ake, āmene. Mōrena, tēnā tātou katoa. Again, it's a privilege to unite and come together under the auspices of unity, under our guiding cloak of matariki, here in the mighty Waikato, under the auspices of Kingdom, coming together to unite us for this great cause and the role that Kai plays in regards to our kaupapa around our SDGs or Sustainable Development Goals. Harvey and I are going to be co-piloting our presentation today. I will be emceeing our hui. We've got some wonderful speakers to share the narrative and history of this particular kaupapa. And so on that note, just want to acknowledge the presence of Arthur Grimes, me mihi ka tika kia koe, nau mai hara mai, ngā whanaunga mai rahui pōkeka to our team from the great space and the pito o te ao and rahui pōkeka hani, Joyce and Lina, me mihi ka tika kia korua, and those Manu Taki that are here in the role that we play, tēnei te mi kia tātou katoa. Greetings, welcome, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. We're now about to share our presentation. If I can just get it to come up, Norm, just give me a second, my friend.
Thanks.
Might be a second.
Guthrie, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Just got a few slight technical problems, Ikarima. Can I just take this opportunity again to acknowledge matariki and all those who are celebrating matariki. What a great time to be unified, especially aligned to what matariki plays in regards to food and unity across our motu. Hope those who have planned a great day for Friday. Tēnā koutou.
Yeah, sorry, and I'm going on this one.
Alapa, you're just on, you're off. Oh, cool.
All right. Right, kapoi. Just check everyone can see it. Can everyone see that? Okay. Tēnā koutou, we're about to present to you our Rongomatāne Kai strategy, and I just want to acknowledge Cilla, Ioana and Anna, Casey Cox, who are going to lead us through the PowerPoint presentation. I tēnei wā, I tukuna te rākau ki a koe. Kia koe te mana. Team, in terms of our agenda, Cilla's going to do an introduction. I'm going to talk to the Rongomatāne strategy. We've got information sharing from the research that we've undertaken from Ioana and Anna. We have the presence of our leaders from Ngāhui Pōkeka, Joyce and Gina, to share the wonderful story of the Marakai there. And we're going to invite Arthur to wrap up our strategy in regards to the wonderful stories, narrative, and where to from here. And then we'll put in place and share the story about where to from here in regards to scaling up and bringing together unity. Mō tō tātanei kaupapa nei. Ka pai. Cilla.
Kia ora everyone, how are we all? So just to start us off with the Sustainable Development Goals and what these are. So this is a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all, with 17 goals and over 239 targets. These goals are globally recognised and have the power to end poverty, fight inequality and act on climate change. The SDGs have been grouped into 3 clusters: environment, community and economy, with the central po acting as our cultural compass to incorporate te ao Māori throughout the Waikato Wellbeing project. For today, however, we will focus on SDGs 1, no poverty, and 2, zero hunger. We do understand, though, that many of these goals and targets are most certainly connected. Can we go to the next slide? So the no poverty and zero hunger target. Our aim is by 2030 is that we will have no children living beneath the poverty line. A huge ask, of which we have barely just scratched the surface. When we look at this target and view it through a causal analysis lens, there are several causes, but the possible effects and implications are almost always the same and paints a very grim picture. However, the possible solutions are many, whether it be to meet the immediate need or the long-term aspirational goals. For the SDG 1 and 2 Manu Taki, we have adopted a mana enhancing approach, looking through a te ao Māori lens with a focus on iwi and Māori aspirations for long-term solutions to build on Kai sovereignty and resilience. It's about reconnecting people to the past, to their whakapapa, to their lands. Look to the past to help forge the future. Our aim is to focus on the positives and what is already happening in the Waikato. So, 1, what are the initiatives? What support is needed? How can we support? Who do we need at the table? And what else needs to happen? Now, we are not saying...
I'm just trying to log in.
So we are not saying that this is the only way, but it is just one way to move ahead. So for the past 8+ months, the Waikato Wellbeing project relating to SDGs 1 and 2, we've focused on gaining greater insight and knowledge of plausible causes and solutions. Our priority has been on gathering information to better understand the current environment and the food system within the Waikato region. This would help to inform and enact upon a Kai strategy. So what have we done to date to capture this information? Firstly, wānanga with Kai network groups, organisations. Kōrero with our kaumātua and rangatahi thus far. Consultations from those with lived experience and in the Pacifica community, that is yet to come. We have or will be showcasing existing Kai initiatives, and we've gathered information through existing research. Today, you'll hear about a current initiative underway in the Waikato, and some common themes that have been captured through the consultations that we have received to date. On that note, I'm going to pass the rākau back to Norm, who will take us back in time. Kia ora.
Tēnā koe, Cilla. Thank you for the fantastic our greater kaupapa. E kare mai, can I just remind those, please have your mic on mute so we can speak to these key points. Just leaning off Cilla, we talk about a Māori-led approach based on tikanga, kawa, and values associated with Te Ao Māori, and it reminds us of the process and connection to the word whakapapa. Whakapapa is genealogy, past, present, and future. And when we speak to the heart of whakapapa here in Waikato, we look to our leadership in the context of kingitanga. And this slide is the second Māori king, King Tawhio. He was a prophet, he was a visionary. He gave his people 7 generations ago a number of key strategic foundations upon which we use to help breathe wellness and life into our current society. And one of those key fundamental values of unity, collectivism, is around Kai. So King Tawhio established the Kai for the bereaved, the widowed, and the poor. And following the Māori land wars, it was Kai, it was unity, it was love, sharing, caring, and knowledge that was used to help bring collectivism, love, and sharing and caring, and unity and well-being across the mighty Waikato following the land wars. So we look back to King Tawhio and his whakatauki, whakatauaki, and tongikura in order to help drive our strategic framework forward in regards to our Kai strategy. When we talk about Kai strategy, it's not necessarily about food, it's the role that hunger, unity, food, collectivism, knowledge plays towards well-being. And the key strategic goals for our manutaki roku. So those that don't know what manutaki is the bird that is at the front end of a flight pathway of birds, or a flock of birds that has a role to lead and guide the movement forward. So as manutaki, we talk to those key points that bring leadership and guidance going forward. So in regards to our strategy, what are we trying to achieve? These are the questions we ask ourselves based on the tikanga and kawa-led approach. Why is there hunger in the food bowl of Waikato, within the food bowl of Aotearoa? And how does the food system actually work? What is really happening, and what is the cause of this deficit, of this mamai? And why isn't the system currently working for everyone? What is the lived experience? And how does food, in the context of food poverty and hunger, what does it mean? What does it, how do we use their policy to guide us going forward? And who can help us really understand the system in order to build enduring solutions going forward? So we talk about the concept of a prototype. So a prototype is something new, something different, something strategic, something unusual or abnormal to us in the current system that brings about change in the way we live, the way we build cohesion amongst our community, and the way we use food to eliminate poverty and to scale up successful wellbeing strategies across the mighty Waikato. And as Cilla said, one SDG across the 17 SDGs are all interconnected. So what relates to food, to hunger, is interconnected to climate change, is interconnected to life on land, life under water, infrastructure, etc. So it's an all integrated approach. And fundamentally, we use tikanga and we use kawa as the partnership, sharing, collective action regime going forward. Tika, it means to do things right. Tikanga is a process of protocols and customs that we apply in our mahi in order to bring unity throughout our rohi. All right. Okay, can everyone still see the slides? Yeah, cool. Yeah. Okay. Ioana, Anna, I'm going to hand it over to you now. Kia kōrua.
Yep. Kia ora, Norm. Ngā mihi kia koe. I'm just briefly covering our community engagement and consultations and what we've done so far. So as has been discussed, the Rongomatane strategy does recognise that land and decolonisation is central to addressing hunger and poverty. So Ioana, Cilla, Norm and I have been undertaking community consultations, and we started, as Cilla said, with our kaumātua and then also with our rangatahi. And our process has really been to connect with kaumātua in our networks and invite them to kōrero with us about their memories of Kai and their dreams for how things might be. We've had to change our approach due to COVID, so our consultations have been more one-on-one and smaller group consultations. And Harvey, the Wellbeing project, has supported us to be able to offer Kai and Manaaki to the people that we meet with. And our consultations with rangatahi have been online via the Teams meetings. There are many people in our communities whose voices are somewhat hidden or not heard in many ways. So people who experience hunger and poverty every day. So our plan is to continue to build relationships with these rangatira in our community who are our leaders in the Rongomatane Kai Māori Kai Ora strategy. And so we plan on bringing our consultation groups together, all going well COVID-wise, during 2022. And as a strategy that Norm and Cilla have relayed is Te Ao Māori centred, one of our kaumātua relayed to us that aroha expressed through manaakitanga is the basis of Māori society, and so therefore is the basis of this strategy. And this is in contrast to some of the other values that we see a lot in our society at the moment that actually are causing the issues of poverty and hunger. So Ioana will now talk about some of the voices that are coming through our consultations so far. Kia ora.
Talofa lava tēnā koutou katoa, ko taku pepehā tēnei no Samoa ahau, ko whale a siu toku iwi, ko Ioana Manu toku ingoa, ko mai ahau ki tokoroa, kei kirikiri roa toku kāinga i naia nei, kei te kauni hera o kirikiri roa ahau e mahi ana, ko Wintek toku kura, soifua no reira tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Following on from Anna, we as Manu Takis engaging and consulting with the community, and as part of my study, Master of Applied Innovation with the Design Factory, it has been an honour and privilege to interview and listen to some of our kaumātua with their lived experiences with Kai and understanding Kai resilience. Their journey growing up with Kai and what was taught to them by their grandparents and or great-grandparents, their dreams and aspirations connecting with Kai. Traditional methods of cultivation practices were also shared, such as protecting Kai underground, the different Kai that was eaten back in time. There was no money to buy bread, so their mums made bread with minimal ingredients. Their teachings through the whenua and how they were able to provide Kai for themselves, how they grew up and lived off kai moana, the change in our climate and the different values of gardening. Kaumātua shared the concepts of community gardens and the importance of having a backyard garden because they had huge acres of whenua available to them. Gardening was all hard work and manual labour. The kaumātua voices also shared the significance of children's curriculum education, that it should include learning how to grow kai, learn how to fish, and learn how to sustain themselves. They stated it's called sustainability, getting back to the basics of Kai. Naming just a few opportunities with this project, the development and implementation of a Kai strategy, a Kai system and framework, people's dreams and aspirations to ensure that Kai takes precedence in Kirikiriroa and the wider Waikato. Demographic data and statistics relating to Kai needs and achieving our Sustainable Development Goals, targets 1 and 2. Cultural narratives and whakapapa of local Kai in the Waikato. Our rangatahi. Is the slide changed, Harvey, for rangatahi?
Yes, it has, yeah.
Oh yeah, thank you. Wow, their voices and stories were incredible. Young people, but very knowledgeable. They were strong and confident in sharing about their upbringing and journey with Kai, sharing their different experiences and their different living situations, their thoughts around their own mara Kai, having a cultural understanding and the importance of protecting the environment. They dreamed big about their Kai aspirations, their thoughts and views on Kai waste and the cost of healthy Kai were a concern. The generations of Kai influence and their expectations. One of the rangatahi stated, to have Kai, to grow Kai, to have Kai sovereignty, you need community. I'll conclude with some emerging themes from our kaumātua and rangatahi interviews so far. The connection and importance between the whenua, Kai and people. Whānau coming together during meal times to eat and share Kai. Whenua availability and the development of community mara Kais. The cost of Kai to ensure affordability so we have healthy whānau. Kai waste, cultural narratives and being sustainable. Kia ora whānau, and back to you, Norm.
Tēnā koe, tēnā kōrua. What profound and poignant points there. Can I just share this story? The role that whenua has in regards to your mana, and hence the word mana whenua. Many of us know that the word whenua means land, but the connection is expressed by our two leaders in regards to the cultural connection to land. Whenua means land, but whenua also means your placenta. And so it's very obvious that when one is born, one gets connected to the whenua straight away. And so the role that whenua plays in regards to your ability to have mana, to provide food, to have money, to house and look after your family, that's certainly a key a theme that resonates in terms of Te Ao Māori lens. That's an appropriate introduction now. So I come from the centre of the universe, which is a place called Rahui Pōkeka, which is my little home in Rahui Pōkeka, Huntly. And I'm now going to hand it over to my two whānau from Rahui Pōkeka to share their story, Joyce. Awesome. Kia koe, Joyce, korua ko Gina.
Go back to the start. Ko te mea tūtahi me wehi ki te atua, me whakahono rea kingi tūheitia, me tō whānau, me te kaui ariki hoki. Kia koutou katoa e rai rangatira mā, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Ko Joyce Maipi tōku ingoa, no Waikato me Taranaki ahau. I'll hand it over to you to introduce yourself.
Kia ora tātou, ko Gina taku ingoa, ko Tarapai ki te maunga, taki tumu me kuru haupo ngā waka, wakakupu te awa, rongo mai wahine me kaungunu te iwi, ko Nai Tamata Hapu, kei te kauri, i roto i te Rahui Pōkeka tōku whare, ko Caprice Turner me Berryman tōku hoa. Kia ora.
Tēnā koutou. Thank you, Norm. Thank you, everyone, for allowing us this quick opportunity to just share our story. So we've termed this as our Mara Kai Collective. Gina and I are going to tag team this. I suppose in a way we were the kind of the worker bees to start this off, and Norm was part of that worker bee space. So our motto is known, so we call it Kahui Tua. So essentially it's the playground for our birds, and that it's a collective of them and their wairua, I suppose, that brought us to this space. It also was during the time of COVID, so we thought through changing from being, and we'll talk a little bit about that, from being looking after the, having maize and feeding horses, and to looking after and feeding our community. So Kahui Tua. Also, just in terms of Kahui Tua, was that our Queen Tatairangi Kahu, her name translated as the hawk that flies at dawn, and acknowledging her beauty and her nurturing of our community. So we see our kaupapa as a Māori supermarket, that we take and use this for a way of, not supermarket in terms of making money or selling, but a supermarket in terms of people coming back and reclaiming what we used to do in terms of kai.
Yeah, I guess in the times when COVID hit, the urgency for sustainability with our kai became paramount. And when we thought about this, well, we didn't know how to plant a potato, let alone grow it. So this is where we've started from, and it's becoming, like you say, our Māori supermarket.
So just in terms of, decolonising our space from dirt to soil, there's a whole kaupapa behind that, but really what we saw was the utilisation of our whenua to feed and our own, and to a desire to not make money or to export anything, but to basically make this a place for our community to feed from. For those in particular who don't have backyards or find it difficult to sustain a mara in their own backyards, but certainly part of this kaupapa has been to go back into backyards and into people's homes to support them.
Correct, yeah. So in a little space, again, for those that can't come to the mara, we do have that option to come and put a mara in your backyard. So the picture on the left is our mara, and so we've got much more. But just as Norman referred to our second Māori king, King Tawhio, one of his sayings was that growing your own food is like printing your own money. So we've again claimed that kaupapa, that kōrero, on behalf of our mara. And so for us, it's this Indigenous knowledge of using the maramataka in particular. So I just wanted to say that our current moon phase today is a Tangaroa Aroto, which is a really good moon phase for kai. So we have all our gardeners out at the moment, just enjoying this phase. There's lots of activity. You're cleaning up, you're preparing the mara, and so we use and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But in terms of our ecosystem, it really is something basic as making sure that we use our own knowledge, our own people, putting that knowledge into the whenua and growing our own kai, and then that looks after our people. So we've really kind of embraced, again, from Tawhio, when he said that my friends will come from all corners of the world. We looked around the world and looked at what other people have done in their space of reclaiming from dirt to soil. And so this, and I'm sure many of you would know this, kaupapa around the plateau there in China, where, they had started using this space 3,000 years ago. It then became what it is on the left, and then on the right is now what it looks like today. So we're claiming of, so having healthy land means healthy people. And just the whole thing around reciprocity, that an exchange of kai reclaiming our Māori economy and making sure that we use our own ancient traditional practices of how kai was shared and used. So from mara to pātaka, and essentially it becomes your own pātaka, where we at the moment are building pātaka around the community to be able to, for people to, it's a shared responsibility, kaupapa though. This is not just about, we do all the work and we put it out in the community and you help yourself. We actually look to people taking on some responsibility to
giving back to the community, and you'll see some of that stuff going on. Do you want to say anything?
No.
Okay, so just in terms of our maramataka, this is the calendar that we use on a monthly basis. So in the green is the time when you kind of are letting things rest, really just looking to look after yourself, to replenish yourself. Then in the orange, it's really around planning and thinking about what we want to do. And then the red is where, so like you said, there's tangaroa aroto. That's when we bring in the kura. So during that time where the hands are, it's when we bring our kids in, where we have wānanga on the mara, but we kind of use the moon phases to allow ourselves to work in the mara. So we have someone who does that, and she does it well. Her name's Hannah, and Hannah manages our maramataka with our team.
So with that, this would be our third season that we're going into now, and we're grateful that we've got the tamariki there. So they come in every probably once a month during the summer period when it's a bit warmer, and do pick a lot and just educating them about the food and how it grows and what it does for them and how they can take it back to their own whenua and whānau.
So here's our kaimahi. So essentially, again, we've gone out to other mara. We're using people in our own communities who probably other people would not want to employ. So our 501s that have come back from Australia and needing a place where they can call their own. We've got people that are otherwise been unemployed for a long time that we've brought on board to look after our mara. And so we're really appreciative that they choose us. And so our kaimahi and our whānau are who we take care of them, and they take care of our land, and then we take care of our community.
Yeah, it's really a blessing at this point to have all those locals who haven't been in this sort of space, that they're welcoming it just as much as we're welcoming them.
So Hautapu was this weekend gone, where matariki, as everyone's known, is a big thing. So for us in the mara, we've planned around ensuring that we've got kai to give during this Hautapu space. So Hautapu, for those of you who are not sure what that is, it's really just it's an acknowledgement of our stars. And I won't go into any detail about it, but we're going from marae to marae doing these kaupapa. So it's really an acknowledgement early in the morning to matariki. And so on Sunday just gone, this Hautapu took place, and we provide the kai during that period. So we're looking at doing a winter and a summer crop.
So yeah, once again, this is more whānau who have been out there now. Obviously, who's those that know Iwai, you need quite a few hands to be able to pull that lot up. So we've got the whānau out there usually during the Christmas time at the hottest part of the season, and we're grateful that they're there to help us, and we all get fed.
So just some more photos around some of the kai that and we're just really needing to have people, our tamariki in particular, touching, feeling, being a part of this whole thing. And just a quick let you know that on the 1st of July, one of the things that we started off when we went to do this mara was that we went to other iwi. So Tūhoi in particular, they've got a thing called the Te Ohu strategy, and that's all about the integration of mara with housing, housing with hauora with education. So we're really excited about something that we've really embraced, that mara just doesn't sit outside in our fields. It actually needs probably something that when we're doing our housing strategy, it's incorporated with all of that. So it's easy, you know, we don't want people just to come and live in our houses and then they can't eat, you know. So it's all an integration of how we sustain and support our social housing approach as well. So that's our kumara harvest.
So our kumara, that's the first time we gave it a go, and they were really huge. They were quite sweet too. So we're surprised that they turned up. So we're looking forward to putting some more in the ground this year.
So Hannah is who you see, the young woman there. She has done a lot of research around our kumara space, And a lot of the whānau that are in the garden, where Norman's also from, is called Ngāti Whawhākia. So Ngāti Whawhākia was a woman, a leader in our tribe. Obviously, that's why our hapu is named after her. And her tool was a hoe. So a hoe to hoe up, her crops. And in particular, she concentrated on kumara. So kumara is a source of kai that we will be really enhancing and working with to feed our community. So we just did a bit of a calculation about some of the kai that we were doing during the time that kai was skyrocketing, and we were basically giving it away for free, and that was the kind of totals that we came up with that we knew we could support and sustain whānau just by giving them, if they, there's no if or but we are really trying to encourage a collaboration with community to be a part of the mara. So just in terms of our vision, it's around economy, kai and knowledge, and claiming that space back that we once were as a people from this area. Our mission and goals are to increase our marakai and rahui pōkeka, taught through the ngā tohu o Te Taiao, using matariki and the maramataka and our awa as our tohu to move that forward. So we've got some kaupapa that we're doing around business development because we're working with MPI on a lot of this work. So MPI have been pretty helpful.
They have been. So they've helped us with the feasibility on the whenua that we're working with, which gives us a good knowledge on what we should plant, where we should plant it, when we should plant it, et cetera, et cetera. It's been really good. So
some of that scientific background to this mahi. And then we really just what our values are around, we're claiming those through our tungi. So our next steps, and this is the last of our slides, is really to how we establish and grow mara throughout our community, how we contribute at the moment to what we've already started, so we keep to build the momentum, and that we really do want to make it as a collective on behalf of those of you that are online, as well as, but in particular with our own local people, using local people, local resources, and our lands that are here. So, nō reira, tēnā koutou.
Fantastic. Tēnei te mihi ki ngā whanaunga I whakarohi ngā whakaro anga whakamua karero te korora te kingitanga, o te rā ko te mana o te whenua, ko te mauri o te taiao, ko te mahi ngā mahi hei paina mo te iwi. So really proud to see that Joyce and Gina, and coming from home, maybe I sit on too many boards and they get my hands dirty enough, but the energy and commitment from our whānau back home is leaderful. And all I could see through those images is lots of smiles, te mene o te mata, the smiling of the many faces, old, young, green, white, blue, and polka dotted. But a real strong theme is the connection of the environment and how the environment is critical to the advancing of us in terms of our poverty, actually in our state of well-being. And it reminds me of the saying, "Ia te mea nui te ao, he tangata, he tangata, he tangata." What is the most important thing in the world? It is people, it is people, it is people. And we are starting to recognize that one of the other most important things in the world is actually the planet, our environment, and using the planet and its resources and mechanisms to help grow and look after the people. So if we put our planet and taiao first, hopefully the whenua, the why, and everything in between can help provide and sustain what we're doing. So absolutely blown away by that presentation. Thank you so much. One quick little yarn, and coming from home in Ngāti Whawhākia, I remember one of our kaumātua, he's passed away now, Toko Waikato. He always recognised and reaffirmed the role of the river. And when it flooded back home, it is often seen as a bad thing, but Joyce said that the river brought nutrients down to sustain the soil in order for our people to grow the myriad of resources, amara, fruit trees, and our own tobacco back home, torori, back home behind our marae Te Ohaki. So the river, in terms of its regime, its flooding, its moving of nutrients, sustained the soil, which was then turned and tilled to grow the resources to sustain the well-being of our people back home. So what a fantastic connection to that story. E karima, just as a reminder, if you have any questions, please put them on the chat function. Harvey and I will do our best to consolidate that and respond how and where we can. We are quite good for time. I am going to hand it over to Arthur. Arthur, kaya koe te mana e hoa. I'm just going to hand it over to Arthur to share his reflection, story, and whakaaro on this at this point in time. So kaya koe, Arthur, tēnā koe.
Kia ora tātou, hei kauranga hao haora ao no motu, I te whanganui atara me te kura kawanatanga o te herenga waka. Tēnā koutou katoa. I should also say I've been in Akonga and a kaiako at Te Wharawānanga o Waikato. So I have a nice experience in the Waikato. And I especially connected with some of the whakatauki that were mentioned by Norm and others, Joyce and Gina and others. The King Tawhio, its gardens bursting with the fullness of good things. He's looking down from Parongia. That's my sort of recollection of my time living in the Waikato, how everything grew so extraordinarily. I now live in Wellington and nothing grows here unless one tries very hard with southerlies wiping everything out. And I also like his King Tawhio saying, growing your own food is like printing our own money, and also the saying healthy land and healthy people. There are a lot of wisdom in those sayings. And one of the I want to thank all those who spoke before. So Norm, Cilla, Anna, Ioana, Joyce, and Gina. And I wanted to try and think about a few themes that emerged out of what we've just heard. The first was a theme that Norm talked about, the role or importance of whenua. And I want to break that into two themes. One is the importance of whenua in general, and the other one is the importance of one's rohi. And here I'll just bring in a little bit of work that I've worked on with one of my, well, he was both a student and a colleague, Rowan Ropata McGregor Tom, who has looked at the long-term importance of whenua and loss of whenua for iwi and hapu across Aotearoa. And this was looking actually at the effects on modern day outcomes for iwi and hapu members of land loss in the 19th century. And what he found, or what we found, is that we can help to explain modern day outcomes for different members of different iwi and hapu by whether their land was confiscated in the Raupatu, and of course that was particularly important in the Waikato, and also how much land or whenua different iwi and hapu managed to retain through that long period of land loss starting from 1840 onwards. So for instance, smoking rates are particularly related to the Raupatu. The connection with marae and with culture is related to how much land has been retained in the rohi by iwi and hapu that people belong to. So there's a long historical explanation or long historical pattern of the importance of whenua, which obviously is very well known in the Maori community, but perhaps less well known more widely in Aotearoa. So that what we've heard today is the importance of that connection to whenua, but I do divide that into two. One is, I think, is the connection to one's rohi, and one is connection to whenua in general. And I think these are two different aspects. And of course, many people who live in a place like Hamilton, Kirikiriroa, some of those that'll be their rohi and some it won't. So I think we might want to think about those people who are whose iwi or tainui or other groups connected to the area, and those who have come in to the Waikato from outside. So I think there's those connections, but whichever way we connect, they're important. The other is a broader connection to nature. And I think we've seen this from a Te Ao Māori lens largely up till now, although we had Ioana talking also about the Pacific views. We've seen it from rangatahi and from Kaumātua. But I would say the connection with nature element is probably goes across all people in the area. It's not a purely Te Ao Māori lens. I think a Te Ao Māori lens is particularly important when one sees it here. But I go back to my childhood, and a very famous book was written when I was a teenager about New Zealand, or about Aotearoa. New Zealand as it was always known then. The half-gallon, quarter-acre Pavlova Paradise by Austin Mitchell, who later became a Labour MP in the UK. But there, the importance of the quarter-acre was, of course, that people would be using their backyards to grow food. And certainly my generation, my parents' generation, more than my generation, my parents' generation and before that, it was quite normal for people of all ethnicities to grow their own food in the backyard. So I think there's a wider connection with nature that goes beyond a Te Ao Māori lens. That is a very strongly importance for people right across the region and across the country. We see this in the allotment movement in many different countries where people have allotments because they're growing up in apartments, etc. So I think we can help to broaden this this great initiative that you've got to people of all ethnicities, but grounding it in the Te Ao Māori lens that you've grounded it in. And I think that can also bring a wide acceptance across the entire region, which I certainly encourage, because I think the connection to nature is hugely important. The other reflection I had when I was listening to so many of the interesting comments was thinking about child poverty. 1/6 of children living in poverty, which we know is it's probably, if anything, that's an understatement, I would think. And the one thing that came through is the importance of educating tamariki about where food comes from, how it's grown, how they can be part of a food system in future, and also educating their parents. I think what came through is that there was knowledge in the Kaumātua. There's growing knowledge amongst tamariki. I suspect there's a missing generation there that needs to be concentrated on, which are people in the sort of middle age who are not the Kaumātua, didn't have the opportunity to grow vegetables in their backyard or in a community garden when they were growing up. They're not perhaps being exposed at the school level as some of the tamariki are. And there's a real disconnect, I think, of people perhaps in that age group of 30 to 60, maybe 20 to 60 from the land. And I think also the knowledge of good food practices, how to prepare basic foods and live on those foods. So I think there's a knowledge issue here, which I was delighted to see as part of this whole kaupapa, is that to bring this knowledge of where food comes from, food preparation, what's healthy eating, etc., in along with the whole area of growing land and using the whenua. And I think Norm mentioned the word food poverty. I would argue that there's poverty. All forms of, whenever we put an adjective in front of poverty, we have transport poverty or food poverty or period poverty or any transport poverty, anything else. They're normally just an aspect of poverty. But I think with the food side, there's also a complementary aspect, which is lack of knowledge of how to make the best of food, especially of fresh food. So I think that goes hand in hand. Now, what I was intrigued with overall, just before I finish, I was intrigued with that this initiative is centered around the Sustainable Development Goals 1 and 2. No poverty, zero hunger. And when I listened to the to the fascinating experiences and the initiatives that are being done. If I was thinking about those from my perspective, I'd have thought they all group under SDG 3, which is good health and well-being. And to me, what is being done here are roots that, yes, they may affect poverty, they may affect hunger, but most of all, it seems to me this is an initiative that is encompassing a number of different aspects, which is leading to greater well-being. And so I see SDG 1 and SDG 2 as means to an end. They're means to an end of improving well-being. And this whole kaupapa of learning and teaching and community involvement, employing the 501s and the long-term unemployed, etc. in this is not quite so centered to me on zero hunger and no poverty, but it's absolutely centered on improving community well-being and well-being of people in the area. So I absolutely applaud that as somebody who works on well-being, and I'd encourage you to and I'm sure you are, to really see this as connected. These are SDG 1 and 2 initiatives with the purpose of enhancing good health and well-being. I might just leave it there because we've heard so much, and I'm sure there's so many questions on what's being done here. I could go into so many details of what I found fascinating, but I'll leave it there, and Harvey and Norm, throw it over back to you.
Tēnā koe e te rangatira I whakatō tō whakaro anga whakamua kei raro te pānga o te ora. So let me translate that. I just wanted to acknowledge the contribution from our leader. His themes resonate across our thinking, our mindset and our behaviour, and he has reaffirmed that there is a strong connection through all SDGs, and these 17 of them, with the PO or the cultural compass being at the heartbeat of all of that. But 1 + 2 = 3, 3 = 4, and there is a interconnection around all the SDGs. So thank you for your feed forward there, Arthur. I just want to acknowledge that we're kind of a little bit early. We are going to open up the floor before I close off with where to from here. And just before I do open up the floor, if you just want to put your hand up, and Harvey and I will unmute you. There is a lot of collateral, there's a lot of expertise, there are a lot of Kai champions doing their magic and doing what they need to do in their communities and their respective rohe, connected to whenua, whakapapa and whānau. And we acknowledge that we are all in this together, he waka eke noa, and the stories that have been shared are one of the myriad of great actions and activities that are taking place across the Wairohe. And like anything, how can we scale up? How can we connect? How can we share all those stories and mechanisms in order to provide for our wider community throughout the rohe? So that is aligned to what the Paukai movement was about. Certainly, it's something that we've been reaffirmed in today's presentations and kōrero. So thank you, I karima. If Manu, can I open up the floor now? If you want to pose a question or make a statement, sing a song or dance, then kei a koe te mana. But if anyone has anything to say and add, please put your hand up before I take us to our closing statement. So, kei a koutou whānau.
And if we can't see your hand, just unmute yourself and say, I've got something to say.
Dave Kelly looks like he wants to say something, but I won't say anything.
We just had a question, how are we measuring impact? Any of the team want to talk about that?
Vicky's got one too.
Okay. Maybe if I can just start the conversation, the kōrero measuring. I mean, the Waikato Wellbeing Project has got some very high level measures that Cilla talked about at the very beginning on long-term impact measures. But we're actually instituting a project now to get down into more fine-grained measures of actually how the Kai system in the Waikato works. We've done a little bit of that in other areas such as youth wellbeing. and now we'll be moving that across the rest of our wellbeing targets. So you'll be sure to hear about a lot more of that coming up shortly. And some of my friends on the call today, like Michelle from MELD, are going to be part of that. So there's knowledge and both are important. It's the lived experience, it's the cultural knowledge, as well as the KPIs and the indicators, and we need to bring it all together. Kia ora. Vicky, do you want to korero?
Hello, hi. My name is Vicky. I'm the manager at the Citizens Advice Bureau in Hamilton. So we deal with a lot of different inquiries, and we also deal with a lot of people who require a circle of support, in our opinion. They'll come to us with a specific issue. It'll be normally they're looking for free food or housing or something specific, but this is someone who is basically struggling on multiple levels, and it's kind of linked to the original ideals behind all of this, that one person may struggle with one thing, but it's linked to their well-being. And I was just wondering if, in terms of us connect, because we're a connector organization, so we try to connect people to other organizations. If we had someone coming in with multiple issues around Kai, but it was clearly linked to other things, what would be some of the suggestions, some of the help we could offer them?
Kia ora, Vicky. I'll just jump in just to support your kōrero really. Yeah, there are multiple issues, and as we've talked on this, as this kōrero is one approach to addressing some of these issues that are in our communities. The organisation, of course, you'll be familiar with, will be here to help. And they are really good at obviously supporting and addressing issues that come in multiple ways, and connecting people to appropriate services. So that would be one suggestion, but I'm sure others have also got other ones as well. So kia ora.
Awesome, thanks, Anna. And maybe we can encourage everyone to put thoughts in the chat around things like that, because there's no one solution to any of these things, and I don't say that to dodge it, but there are heaps and heaps of amazing solutions out there that we can all chip in. And part of the Waikato Wellbeing project is not to make up solutions, it's to find the solutions that are out there. Sally, kia ora.
Kia ora whanau. My name's Sally and I work at Waipa District Council, and I just wanted to first say to those two amazing wahine and their Mara Kai project, amazing presentation, I want to join, but I've got my own thing. But anyway, but I just wanted to flag that there's quite a lot of synergies between what I work in, which is waste minimisation, and food. So, food waste is a big thing. And I've done a couple of solid waste audits where we actually open people's rubbish bags and we open their food out. We weigh everything into 22 different categories, including food. And it was amazing the kind of amount of edible stuff that we have. So, our food waste hierarchy is like reducing food waste before we think about composting, before we think about feeding our pets and all that kind of stuff. So just flagging for all the people on the call that maybe touch base with your waste minimisation officers at your council and see if you've got any great ideas about reducing food waste at the outset. And if anyone's in the Waipa, I'm your person. But yeah, and the Ministry for the Environment has a huge focus on reducing organic waste in landfill. So anything that we can do to help people eat the food that they have while it's still good to eat. And I mean, I can confess that there's been a few floppy broccolis at the bottom of my veggie bin before, but if we can eat that food before it becomes waste, I think there's some cool synergies there. So just connecting them with your councils as well.
Kia ora, Sally. One of the things that we'll be announcing shortly is I've co-opted Rick Thorpe into doing a webinar in around September or October on circular economy. So I wonder if you just volunteered to be a presenter, Sally?
Hit me up.
Donald.
Kia ora, everybody, how are we doing? Really, thank you for the presentations for the various presenters today. I suppose it's kind of a general question to the group. A lot of our focus has been on, say, empowering people with different aspects of poverty, as Arthur spoke of. Is there other parts of this which are looking at more systemic change rather than the individuals who are experiencing poverty, but rather the systems that create them, in terms of working with food distributors or generators or any of that sort of stuff?
Hey, thanks, Donald. I think it's a really, really good point. And one of the slides Norm put up at the beginning showing the iceberg and, you know, the systems understanding perspective, I think is something that the Waikato Wellbeing Project wants to do and wants to do well. We've done it a bit in rangatahi wellbeing, and we can certainly look at that approach here as well. I mean, there are heaps and heaps of people talking about the Kai system at the big level all across the motu right now, and I think we need to understand that as well. We've started from the grassroots here, and so we'll work our way up.
Cool. Good. Thanks for that.
Kia ora, Joe.
Oh. Kia ora tātou. Thank you to the presenters. I enjoyed that. I just really putting my hand up and my little heart up to tautoko what Donald just said, and open up the space to throw into the long-term systemic change, you know, the practical solutions that we know exist, such as increasing incomes and land back as a structural solution for change. So yeah, I just wanted to talk all those comments.
Kia ora, Joe. Awesome. Rongo.
Kia ora.
Oh my God. Oh. Pai nai nei, hoi anō, I te tūtahi tēnā rawa atu koutou nā whakahaere o tēnei hui wānanga ki a koe Harvey and ki a koe Norm, ka nui taku mihi ki a koutou, huri taku mihi ki a koutou katoa, e whakarongo ana, e tūwhera ana o koutou hinengaro, o koutou ngākau, ki ngā kai kōrero, e puta atu I wā rātou taonga ki mua I a tātou. So, kei te tautoko au ngā mihi kua mihia. So I think that the richness of bringing us all together and bringing through the community voices has been absolutely amazing, but in particular, having the voice of mana whenua. So, you know, just that brief conversation, there was a lot of taonga that they shared. But one of the key things that I think that is really, really at the heart of the work that all of us are wanting to do is we're wanting to have a better future for our people or our tamariki mokopuna who are coming and leaving a good legacy for them. So when Joyce, when they shared about Mara Kai, it's around intergenerational transfer of mātauranga, but it's also around being around, you know, you saw those wonderful images and they were all with the mokopuna, the rangatahi and the kaumātua, which is really, really important. But I think how can we support that as people listening today? How can we amplify the voice of not only the mana whenua and the aspirations that they're continuing to enhance and to tweak, but also around how can we as a collective of people support and bring out the community voice. I think it's so essential because a lot of communities are used to getting things done for them, or we're going to come in and fix you up. But this kaupapa with my whanaunga from Rāhui Pōkeka, the Mara Kai, it's actually coming from the heart of the community, which is the people who live there. How can we connect or support all the mana whenua that live in Te Rohe o Waikato
in particular, around enabling them in supporting them to stand, and also connecting, if they want, with other ways and approaches that will enhance the mātauranga Māori that they have. So that's just a question that or something that I would like everyone that's listening to consider, because the answer lies with the people in the communities. They are the experts. They know each other. They know how to, work with each other. They also know how to build capacity, clear message, growing capacity. There's a richness in rather than looking at deficit, look at a strength-based approach, look at what values and assets exist in communities. And the kaupapa that they do in Te Rāhui Pōkeka is something that actually a lot of hapu were very, very entrepreneurial around doing, but because of confiscation, as we all know, that connection with the whenua and with the wai was broken, and then also around the kaitiakitanga and the guardianship, that role was taken from our people. However, we still continue to thrive in our own communities, but without any support from anybody else. So the generation gap, actually, there are a lot of 30 to 60-year-olds that were brought up around grandparents, were brought up around their marae. Actually, there's a lot of richness, but we don't have opportunities to share our narratives with each other or with other people. So we all moved into the city. That's the kaupapa that stopped us continuing to do that. But yeah, I just wanted to mihi to my whanaunga in Rāhui Pōkeka in particular, but to also the Waikato Wellbeing project for bringing in voices that should be at the table, and they should be heard and they should be responded to, actually. So, kia ora tātou.
If it's okay, if I could just respond to that and say kia ora rongo. And I just think what we missed out in saying was that yeah, we really think that our history has proven that we don't wait around for someone else to really give us a plan, or wait till someone else does something for us. I think we do really acknowledge the fact that there is that we take that responsibility as the people from the community, and if you want to help, that's cool, and we'll figure out a way on how you come in and support our plan and how you support our initiatives. And that's one thing that we've really been grateful about, working with the likes of Rongo, who basically just said, what is it that you're doing, as opposed to saying this is what we've got to offer, and can you fit into this little box? If the box doesn't fit in for us, then we just don't
keep going forward.
We just keep going forward, because I think that's how most communities are. Most communities really do want to look after themselves, and they do want to find their own solutions. And I agree with you about not having a deficit approach, that what's important here is that we look at what the beauty is in each of the communities that we all work in, and find that gold, find that heart, find that gold, find that all those sparks that are sparking all over the place, and then you just really enable. And it's enabling, I think it's an enabling space, and that's one thing that we really have appreciated, is that it's an enabling, we enable our people, and they enable us, and hopefully this is something that you will do in terms of the way in which you will enable the rest of the Waikato rohe to do. So kia ora, Rongo.
Can I just also share some connections to Joyce's thoughts? We've got a strategy back home, and it's restoring the beauty of Rāhui Pōkeka, street by street, whānau by whānau, home by home, stream by stream, mountain by mountain, tree by tree. And it's a holistic wellbeing framework. One thing I do, Cilla, can you mute your, Cilla, were you about to mute your mic, please? Yep. So one of the key connections from a Rahui Pukeka point of view is certainly leadership, and Joyce has been a champion of a leader for us back home, and with Gina and others. And I acknowledge Te Robert Mahuta and Taitumi Maipi and others who have led the way. And I think with regards to leadership, we can actually mirror and share that story. So there are leaders within the community that we can really acknowledge and highlight in a way that shares their story and creates that wellbeing journey and connection. My personal reflection on the Waikato Wellbeing Project is I actually tried to change the name. When the Waikato Wellbeing Project was termed, I thought it was actually a Waikato Wellbeing journey and or promise. And I try to get that wording in because it is a promise to our community to do the best we can with the resources we have. And as Joyce said, friends will come from the four corners of the world, the carpenters, the blacksmiths, and the shoemakers. And again, King Tawhia said, if you stand united, you will achieve. There's one eye of the needle through which the white, red, and the black threads pass. Hold strong to love, law, and faith, and share, care, and love. And if we shared our story, shared the movement, got on board the waka in regards to the Waikato Wellbeing movement and promise, we will, in time, start to hit those measuring targets that we aim to achieve. And just on that point, I want to acknowledge Karen and Raywin, who had the leaderful idea to bring this movement together. And I'm really stoked and proud with all those that have given their time today. Your contribution in terms of your presence is actually a gift. And so we are really thankful for the journey that we are all on collectively. Mate, can I say anything?
Just one thing. Yeah, kia ora, Norm. Just for me personally, it's interesting. A few people sort of say to me, usually people who aren't of a very friendly disposition, oh, what's the Waikato Wellbeing Project done? And how have you solved things yet? And I think, you know what, you don't get it. What is the Waikato Wellbeing Project? This is the Waikato Wellbeing Project. This is actually finding out that the answers to our wellbeing challenges are there right now. Just as you said, Joyce, we need an enabling space, we need an enabling space where we can hear and share and celebrate and honor those stories, and recognize that people like me, we don't need to science the answers are already there. We actually need to share those and nurture those. So this has been an awesome korero. I just want to thank you all so much. Norm's going to close up. Can I just ask before we do, if this doesn't appear on social media, of course, it never happens. So could I just ask everyone to turn on their cameras and give us your best smiley face for 10 seconds, and then we'll have an amazing record of this incredible korero. And we will put this recording online too, so everyone can share it. So kia ora, thank you all so much, and I'll hand it back to Matua Norm.
I can take the photo now.
I'll just get it from the recording.
Right. Yeah, tēnā tātou anō. Again, in closing, I acknowledge the past in order to go forward, and King Tawhia and his legacy. 7 generations ago, he gave us a gift of knowledge and our ability to share that knowledge to inform our future. So we acknowledge the pepeha and tongikira o tō tātou nei kingi. I just want to share next steps. From a manutaki rōpū perspective, we're going to have more kōrero in order to dive deep into the hidden communities, those that are often not spoken to, the Pacifica, whānau, rangatahi and kaumātua. So we're going to continue with that. The key is to bring those participants together to identify the key themes again, re-emerging, reaffirming or new, to help provide more fuel to the strategy. There is going to be a seminar on Kai needs, the immediate needs of Kai. Speakers Mike Rolton from Vinnie's and Lisa from Kete Kai. That's happening next month. Wānanga Kumara, that's going to be highlighted and sent out, that's run through Papa Nui, Te Punakoa or Waikato and Go Eco. And again, it aligns to the principles and values of Matariki. And fundamentally for us as a rōpū, as a unit, as a ope, as a waka, we want to continue the tikanga of sharing and caring, and we want to again reaffirm the tikanga of collective action. Ko tai te kāka hoka whati, ki te kapuia e kore e whati. When one reed stands alone, it is vulnerable. When all stand united and tight, we are invincible, and we shall achieve. And again, in closing, Princess Te Puia says, mehe me ka moi moi a hau, ko a hau naki, ka moi moi a tātou, ka tai e tātou. If I dream alone. If we all dream, we will achieve. Te ohunga ake I toku moi moi a, ko te pua waitango o te whakaaro. Dreams only become reality when you take action. So on that note, thank you for participating in today's wonderful kōrero, wonderful discussion, the exchange of mātauranga. Let me close our meeting with a prayer. And hope we keep talking with action at the forefront of achieving wellbeing. Nō reira, kei noi tātou. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai. He hiaki ana te ata kura, he tio, he hauhunga, haumi e hui e, tā e kie.